When it comes to the mythology and origins of different Pokemon, some of the most interesting ones have to be the starter Pokemon in particular. What are they based on? Where did they come from? And what is the deal with their names? Well, today we're taking a look at the mythology and origin of the Pokemon Water Starters. Let's get started. Starting off this video is Squirtle, of course, and its evolutionary line. Now, Squirtle is an interesting and beloved water starter from Kanto and Generation 1. Now, as for its origin, it is clearly based on a turtle, which is pretty evident, and the same goes for its evolution, Wartortle, as well as Blastoise. As for the mythology involved in Squirtle and Wartortle's design, we can see that their tails are actually based on the Minogame, which is a 10,000-year-old magical turtle in Japanese folklore. As for their names, Squirtle and Wartortle, Squirtle specifically with its English name uses the word squirt and turtle, and potentially also squirrel in its name, considering how its tail kind of looks like a squirrel tail. As for the Japanese name, it is Zenigame. Here we have basically a mixture of the word Zeni, which means money, and Kame, which means turtle, so kind of interesting. As for Wartortle though, here we have in English the mixtures of the word and turtle into one. As for the Japanese name, it's Kamele, and it's again using the word Kame, which is turtle, and also could be using the word veil in its name, but it's not 100% certain. And finally, we have Blastoise, whom gets its design from mixing a tortoise and perhaps a tank or cannon into one. And as for the name in English, it clearly gets its name from the combo of the words blast and tortoise. Next, we have Generation 2 with Totodile and its evolutions. Personally, one of my favorite starter Pokemon of all time, and probably my favorite water starter ever. I find that Totodile's design kind of speaks for itself. Its design is clearly based on a crocodile, and its name is using some sort of mixture of the word tot, which doesn't really mean much, and the word odile, apart from, part of the word crocodile. Now, as for its evolution though, Croconaw, with a similar design basis, a crocodile design, however, it actually also gets some coloring to it, which basically gives it some sort of caveman style of design. Some would also argue that it looks more like a Pokemon egg design on its belly than a caveman outfit, but that's just what I think. Now, its name clearly mixes the word crocodile and the word gnaw, which is probably coming from the word gnawing, so it could be those two mixed into one. So next, we finally have Feraligatr, which in its name uses the word feral and the word gator, and as for its design, is pretty much in the same vein as the pre-evolutions of mainly being a bipedal alligator or crocodile design of some sort. Then we have Generation 3, and here we have Mudkip and its evolutions. First up, of course, is Mudkip, which gets its name from the strange fish known as a mudskipper, which are these strange breed of fish which can basically spend most of their time during the day on land. Now, as for its design, it mixes the concept of a mudskipper as well as an axolotl, which are those really weird fish things you may have seen before. It mixes those two into one. Then you have its middle stage, which is Marshtomp, which gets its name from the words marsh and stomp. And as for its design, it's mostly just based on the same stuff as Mudkip is, which is the mudskipper as well as the axolotl. Then finally we have Swampert, which pretty obviously in its name uses the word swamp, which makes sense considering its typing being water ground, which makes it perfectly make sense considering most water ground Pokemon would be in swamps. Now, what else is there to say about this? Well, basically, it also gets the case of the word rampart in its name as well, which means fortification, which according to Pokemon Wiki could refer to Swampert's habit of piling boulders to protect itself within those swamps. Then we have Generation 4 and Piplup alongside its evolutionary line. Piplup just genuinely never really was one of my favorite starters, but as for what it's based on, it's pretty interesting. So its name could be mixing the word pip, which could come from the word pipsqueak, and lup could be from the word plump, implying it's fat. And looking at its design, it's pretty evident that it's mainly a little fat penguin. That's what it's based on. As for its evolution, Primplup, we see pretty much the same mixing of the word prin, which is basically the word prince or princess, and also the word lup again coming from plump, right? And as for its design, it mainly looks like a fat penguin, right? However, where it gets interesting is right here. Empoleon is a different story. This final stage is clearly based on an emperor penguin and also has a hint of Poseidon references in it with the whole trident on its head. And on top of that, its name also mixes the word emperor with the word Oleon, which comes from Napoleon, which is the name of the French general Napoleon Bonaparte. So yeah, there you go. It's a pretty cool concept, I'm gonna be honest. I really like this one the most. Next is Generation 5 and Oshawott. Oshawott and its evolutions have an interesting difference between them. See, Oshawott specifically has the word Osha, which could be referring to the ocean in its name, and then there is Wat, which could be using the W for water, and then of course the Ot part, which is for otter, right? As for its design, it's clearly based on a sea otter, right? Which is what you can see in its design, but on top of that, it also has this seashell on its belly, kind of making it more sense that it's a sea otter. However, then we have Duot, which also uses the word what in its name, and as for its name origin, it mixes the word do, which is connected to it being a water type, and then the word otter, which makes sense since it's based on an otter, but it also has a hint of some sort of warrior design in it. Also, you can kind of see a little bit of like a samurai or something design with the shells on its legs. It does have kind of like that samurai outfit concept going for it, but we can see that even further with its evolution, which is then Samurott, a total departure from the previous two stages because this one is, not bipedal, it is actually on all fours. Besides, one thing which is, really cool about it is that its name uses the word, of course, what for otter in its name, but the start of the name is clearly a connection to the word samurai. Samurott, right? So samurai. As for its design, it still has some sort of those like sea otter concepts to it, but also has these armor plates on the side of it, which are clearly meant to represent its samurai armor on it. So pretty cool in my honest opinion. I do like it. It's really cool with Pokemon, and definitely my favorite of the stages from this evolutionary line. And next is the 6th generation's Kalos water starter, which of course is Froakie. Now Froakie is using the words frog and croaky in its name, seemingly. As for its design, it is clearly based on a frog, but if you want to be more specific, it is based specifically on a tree frog, which fits its evolution, eventual kind of ninja design once we get to Greninja. However, as for Frogadier, we have once again frog in its name, and also the word Brigadier, which is a military rank, which you can see with Frogadier, right? As for its design, it's also pretty much based on a frog, but it also has that foam on its neck, which could be referring to how, frogs just, make a lot of mess and that sort of stuff with the foam from their mouth or whatever. But either way, finally, we have everyone's favorite Greninja. As for its name, it actually gets the gre part at the start of its name from the French word grenouille, which is basically, or what it basically means is frog. And then of course, the ninja part of its name is pretty obvious. It's literally the word ninja. As for its design though, it also has just been based on a frog for the most part. However, there is an interesting mythology used for its design, and that is that it could be based or inspired by the made-up character of Jiraiya from the Edo era of Japan, who basically he's part of like the ninjutsu kind of type of thing over there, which is where Greninja gets its association with ninjutsu, which is basically being a ninja, right? The art of being a ninja. So yeah, it's a pretty cool concept. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's pretty cool and pretty awesome. And that's where Greninja comes from as well as its pre-evolution. So yeah, that is that one. Let's go to the penultimate one on the list. Then we have a Generation 7. Here we are looking at Popplio and its evolutions. Now, Popplio gets its name from the combination of the word pop, which is the sound associated with bubbles bursting, pop, pop, but also the word Leo, which is clearly coming from the word sea lion, right? Now, as for its design, it has a hint of a clown in its design, which you can see with the red nose, but for the most part, its design is mostly based on a performing sea lion, or kind of the classic interpretation of a performing sea lion. So that's that one. Next is Brioni, and its name comes from the word brine, which means salty water, and brio, which is basically an Italian word meaning liveliness, which makes sense and fits Brioni with its lively kind of feeling. As for its design, it mixes the concept of a sea lion once again, but also a bit of a ballerina vibe and still has that clown nose on it. Finally, we have Primarina, which clearly uses the words prima, donna, which is a opera singer, but also could be used to refer to someone that's stuck up, as well as the words marine and ballerina, so Primarina, which honestly is a pretty cool thing to base it on, and it makes sense with its concept and style and design, which can be seen having this kind of ballerina vibe to it and kind of this prima donna kind of concept. Then we have the final starter on this list, and that of course is Sobble and its evolutions. Now, Sobble's name is a mixture of the word sob, which is to cry, and then the word bubble. And of course, those both make sense considering how depressed Sobble tends to be, but also fits with its water typing. Then you have its design, which is basically based around a chameleon of some sort, right? A water chameleon, which isn't really a thing, but just basically a chameleon. Next, we have its evolution, which is Drizzle, having its name coming from the word drizzle, which is basically light rain, and also, last part of its name, it could be referring to reptile, right? Drizzle. Now, as for its design, it has a emo vibe about it, but also is still based on a chameleon. So an emo chameleon, basically, not my favorite to be honest, but that's that. Finally though, we have INTELLEGENCE, with its name coming from the word intelligence or intellect and the word chameleon. And as for its design, it is based on a secret agent, a la James Bond, which also makes sense since the Pokédex number for it basically is 007. And James Bond is also from the UK, which is what Galar is based on, so it all just matches perfectly and makes total sense. And in my opinion, is one of the coolest concepts for a Pokemon starter. So yeah, that is basically it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the whole list. I hope you enjoyed it. If you guys want to see the fire types next, then let's hit 1,000 likes in this video for more content. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves, a great day. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.